I'd like to call this meeting to order. No, I'm not the supervisor, and contrary to what you think you might be witnessing, no coup has occurred. Amber is on vacation this week, and Meg is under the weather. So tonight you have me, Gordon, and Albert. And we're going to do the best job we can for you today. So we're going to start with rising and saluting our flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Amber Wilson has told me a few people had signed up for public comment. If your comments are not related to anything on the agenda tonight, that's fine. But if they are, it has to go into a public hearing. Who signed up?
It's for the hearing.
Oh, all the free hearings? Okay. Thank you for signing up. But it looks like, yeah, this is all relating to a public hearing happening later in this meeting. So we're going to move straight into the first agenda item, which are resolutions to set public hearings.
We have the correspondence adjourning.
We have to read the correspondence. I didn't know we had any.
So we received a letter from John Bennett requesting to adjourn the Gardner's Bay Country Club until June 30th.
Okay. That was on the agenda tonight, but they have adjourned till June 30th, so we will see them on that date. So,
Let me start us
would you
off.
like to start us off, Albert?
Yeah. Whereas pursuant to Shelter Island Town Code, Section 109, Gerald Siller has submitted a site plan review application on behalf of Grady Riley Gardens LLC, 27 West Neck Road, designated as tax map number 700-14-3-75.5, to relocate and downscale existing garden center from 80 Menantic Road. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby calls for a public hearing to be held at 6:06 p.m. prevailing time on the 30th day of June 2025 in the Shelter Island Town Hall for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition to the proposed application. So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes, resolution passes. Whereas Darren Binder, 10 Lords Lane, has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for permission to relocate mooring designated as W-3258 to a location designated as latitude 41.06278 degrees north and longitude 72.3550 degrees west. Now therefore, be it resolved that pursuant to section 90-5 of the Code of Town of Shelter Island, the town board hereby calls for a public hearing to be held at 6:07 p.m. prevailing time on the 30th day of June, 2025, in the Shelter Island Town Hall for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition to. So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution passes.
Whereas Richard Levine, 47A Southbury Road, has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for permission to install a mooring at a location designated as 41.06670 degrees north and 72.30688 degrees west. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to section 90-5 of the Code of Shelter Island, a public hearing will be held at 6:08 p.m. prevailing time on the 30th day of June, 2025, in the Shelter Island Town Hall, Shelter Island, New York, for all interested persons to be heard in favor or in opposition of the proposed installation. So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution passes.
Whereas Shelter Island Holdings LLC, care of Eric Zweifach, 23 Fred's Lane, has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for permission to install approximately 204 linear feet of 2 to 3 quar fiber rolls, biologs, secured with untreated hardwood stakes along toe of eroding embankment, and restore embankment with approximately 40 cubic yards of clean sandy fill to be trucked in from an approved upland source and be planted with native vegetation as per plans submitted by EN Consultants, last dated April 23rd, 2025. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to section 53-9 of the Code of the Town of Shelter Island, a public hearing will be held at 6:02 p.m. prevailing time on the 21st day of July, 2025, in the Shelter Island Town Hall for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition to the proposed construction. So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution passes. Whereas James and Cheryl Keller, 56A North Cartwright Road, has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for a wetlands permit to demolish and remove existing 2,698 square feet concrete dwelling foundation, approximately 1,776 square feet located within wetlands regulated area, fill foundation excavation site in wetlands regulated area with approximately 111 cubic yards of soil material obtained from construction-related excavations outside wetlands regulated areas, established 25 to 54-foot wide, non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer adjacent to tidal wetlands boundary to be planted with native vegetation, existing vegetation to remain, all per site plan submitted by Aries Design, Landscape Architecture, last dated May 7, 2025. Now therefore, be it resolved that pursuant to section 129-7 of the Code of the Town of Shelter Island, a public hearing will be held on the 21st day of July, 2025 at 6:03 p.m. prevailing time in the Shelter Island Town Hall, Shelter Island, New York, for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition to the proposed application. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Whereas Selma Valdat at 35 East Brander Parkway has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for permission to remove and replace in place approximately 126 linear feet of existing timber bulkhead with vinyl bulkhead backfilled with approximately 15 cubic yards of clean sand to be trucked in from an approved upland source as per plan submitted by N Consultants dated January 16th, 2025. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to section 53-9 of the Code of the Town of Shelter Island, a public hearing will be held at 6:04 prevailing time on the 21st day of July, 2025 in Shelter Island Town Hall for all persons interested in being heard in favor or in opposition of the proposed construction. So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution passes.
Whereas Courtenay O'Sullivan, 74 Peconic Avenue, has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for a wetlands permit for removal of existing family dwelling, retain most of existing foundation, flood deck, and portion of the first floor walls, construct new dwelling on same footprint, new second floor over portion of building, reduce size of waterside deck, new swimming pool landward of the building, new IA on-site wastewater treatment system, well and stormwater control, all per plans submitted by Sherman Engineering, last dated April 28, 2025. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to section 129-7 of the Code of the Town of Shelter Island, a public hearing will be held on the 21st day of July, 2025 at 6:05 p.m. prevailing time in the Shelter Island Town Hall, Shelter Island, New York, for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition to the proposed application. So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution passes. Be it resolved that Nathan Cronin is hereby appointed to serve as Traffic Control Officer for the year of 2025 to be paid at a rate of $20 per hour, retroactive to May 23rd, 2025. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution passes.
Be it resolved that Patrick Roeder is hereby appointed to serve as lifeguard for the year 2025 to be paid at a rate of $22.50 per hour. So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution passes.
Be it resolved that May Brigham is hereby appointed to serve as lifeguard for the year 2025 to be paid at the rate of $22.50 per hour. So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution passes. Be it resolved that Lila Feitzer is hereby appointed to serve as lifeguard for the year of 2025 to be paid at a rate of $22 per hour. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution passes.
Be it resolved that Selma McDonald is hereby appointed to serve as a lifeguard for the year 2025 and to be paid at a rate of $21 per hour. So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Resolution passes.
Be it resolved that Noah Schlesinger is hereby appointed to serve as lifeguard for the year 2025 to be paid at a rate of $22 per hour. So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution passes. Be it resolved that Judson McCann is hereby appointed to serve as lifeguard for the year of 2025 to be paid at a rate of $22 per hour. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution passes.
Be it resolved that Neil Lowell is hereby appointed to serve as a swim instructor for the year 2025 to be paid at a rate of $30 per hour. So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution passes.
Be it resolved that Amanda Cata is hereby appointed to serve as a volunteer for the Recreation Department for the year 2025, retroactive to May 28, 2025. So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution passes. Be it resolved that Michael Ciccarelli is hereby appointed to serve as a freelance home maintenance repair mechanic for the residential repair program for the year 2025 to be paid at a rate of $26.59 per hour, retroactive to May 26, 2025. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution passes.
Whereas pursuant to Chapter 33 of the Town of Shelter Island Code, Lynette Lorison, on behalf of the Shelter Island Historical Museum at 16 South Ferry Road, has submitted an outdoor assembly application for permission to hold an annual community musical fundraiser on July 18th and 19th, 2025, from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. And whereas the applicant has requested an exemption from the noise ordinance, and whereas the required documents have been submitted, now therefore be it resolved that said request is hereby approved. So move. Second? I'm saying move, I'm sorry.
You have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Resolution passes.
Whereas pursuant to Chapter 33 of the Town Code, Tom Hashagen, on behalf of the Shelter Island Recreation Department, has requested permission to hold a Music by the Beach event to be held on July 9th, July 23rd, August 6th, and August 20th from 4:30 p.m. through 7:30 p.m. with rain dates of July 16th, July 20th, August 13th, and August 27th from 4:30 p.m. through 7:30 p.m. And whereas the applicant has requested an exemption from the noise ordinance on said event dates, and whereas all required documents have been submitted, Therefore, be it resolved that said request is hereby approved. So moved.
Before you move this one, can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Maybe to modify it so that it's not only on those dates, but within the specified hours.
Okay,
4:30,
Okay.
4:30.
so
I'll edit.
you should move it with suggested revisions from,
Moved with the rain dates also to include from 4:30 to 7:30 PM. Is that what you're saying, Stephen?
The noise ordinance.
The noise ordinance.
Yes.
I got it.
Okay, all right. Exemption from the noise ordinance applies to the rain dates as well. So moved.
Well, I'm sorry, what the approval is for all dates within the hours set forth, 4:30 to 7 PM,
7:30.
Right.
or 7:30 PM, right?
Whereas the applicant has requested an exemption from the noise ordinance on said event dates from 4:30 to 7:30 PM, and whereas all required documents are submitted.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Resolution passes. Whereas a public hearing was held on May 19th, 2025 to amend the proposed use of Suffolk County Community Development Block Grant 2024 funds by transferring $60,000 from construction costs for ADA compliance as the police department, at the police department towards the 2024 ADA ramp at and handicap access in the Shelter Island Country Club. And whereas no comments were received regarding proposed amendment, now therefore be it resolved that said amendment is hereby approved. Do you want
Second?
discussion? No?
No,
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 so moved.
second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution passes.
Whereas the supervisor is hereby authorized to execute a contract between the town of Shelter Island and Solitude for harvesting of undesirable, harmful aquatic vegetation in Fresh Pond. The project is not to exceed $10,000, and the funds are to be reimbursed to the town of Shelter Island from the Fresh Pond Neighborhood Association. So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Resolution passes.
Whereas various departments and committees have reported the return of unused petty cash funds, and whereas it is necessary to formally acknowledge and restore the return, record the return of these funds for accounting and auditing purposes. Now therefore be it resolved that the following amounts of petty cash are hereby returned. Attorney, $200. Planning Board, $160.46. Conservation Advisory Committee, $60. Water Advisory Committee, $50. Code Enforcement, $300. So move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution passes. Be it resolved that the petty cash fund for the building department is hereby increased by $100, resulting in a new total of petty cash fund of $400. So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution passes.
Be it resolved, the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to expend the sum of $58 from B 8664.6.484 Code Enforcement Office and miscellaneous account for the purpose of reimbursing the petty cash fund due to a document loss. So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Resolution passes.
Be resolved that the following 2025 budget modifications are hereby approved. $1,023.92 increase to the 2025 DA 2680 Insurance Recovery Revenue Account to be funded by the reimbursement check from NYMER for claim number TSHI-2025-006-001. And $1,023.92 increase to the 2025 DA 5130.446 machine repairs account and a $10 increase to the CP 8802.458 CPF land acquisition account to be funded by the refund check received from Fidelity National Title due to an overpayment of recording fees associated with the closing of the property at 7 South Cartwright Road. So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution passes. Be it resolved that the following 2025 budget transfers are hereby approved. $100 from B8012.484-ZBA-Office and Miscellaneous to B8012-102-ZBA-Clerk to cover substitute clerk overtime for vacation taken. $2,020 from B8012.498 ZBA-Association of Towns Training to B8012.497 ZBA-Professional Services to cover interim attorney costs. $4,886 from A1490.410 Public Works Grounds Maintenance. Yeah. 4866 from A1490.200 PW Equipment and 4886 from DA5140.447 Brush and Weeds Outside Contractors to be transferred to newly established budget line DA5140.200 Brush and Weeds Equipment for the purpose of purchasing equipment to be used throughout the town. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution passed.
Be it resolved, the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to expend the sum of $3,960 from A1680.476 computer maintenance account to East End Computers LLC for the yearly Microsoft 365 business program with the contract term of April 24 through April 24-25 through April 25th, 2026. So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right. Resolution passes.
Be it resolved that 2025 general claims numbered 945 through 1101 in the amount of $157,715.22. 2025 highway claims numbered 87 through 109 in the amount of $40,296.14. And 2025 community preservation funds claim 14 in the amount of $12,596.78. And 2025 water quality improvement claim number 15 in the amount of $7.52 are hereby approved for payment as ordered, and the supervisor and or any town board members hereby authorized and directed to sign the approval for payment of same. So move.
Discussion?
I have a comment, please. Just a correction. There was a transposition error in the reading of the first number that appears on the second line. The correct number is $153,715.22.
Thank you, Stephen.
So modified. So move. I'll second it. You have called for discussion.
Discussion, okay. We tend to get these reports, okay, at the last minute, and I really did not have a chance to really review a couple of particular items here that had to deal with work done on Goat Hill, and I have not looked at the contracts, and I reserve the right to take a look at those contracts to make sure they have been competitively bid out, okay? And I don't know how to do that other than to say that I want to move forward with paying the bills but I really want to be able to look at these transactions that have gone on with Goat Hill. The town has spent a lot of money on this particular facility. I think it's worthwhile to really look at some of these items that are there, okay? You have another item earlier on that had to deal with a block grant. We're spending $60,000 for ADA compliance, okay? I want to make sure that we're doing the right procedure by having those projects go out to bid, okay? So just a comment, okay?
Okay.
So what I would suggest the board do, if it wishes to, is approve it subject to Gordon's review of the details and finding them satisfactory. And in the event that he does not, the matter will come back to the board at its next meeting.
So,
Go ahead.
no, I was gonna,
I really don't want to hold up payments because everything is set in line. We can't pull out a payment, okay, because it upsets how checks are issued and so forth. But I really would like the time to review this, and I'm just voicing a concern, that's all.
So for this one tonight, you are proposing that the board act?
Act on it, yes.
Yes, okay.
but we should make note of his concern and
Yep.
his objection, or at least desire to review the documents. So the motion is to approve this resolution subject, or at least acknowledging the comments and concerns of
Yep.
Councilman Gooding as to reviewing the history of the expenditure and to check to see what the bidding process was for the work that was done,
Correct.
or about to be done. So I will second that.
But I'm sorry, just to be clear,
Yeah,
so there's no doubt, this is not a conditional approval.
no,
Right.
He wants to
That's correct.
approve, but you want
It's
to
approved.
review the vouchers that are
Yes.
being passed through for Goat Hill.
I'm looking to see the bidding process, okay?
okay. So, all in favor of approving this motion?
Aye.
Resolution passes. That concludes the resolution portion of the program tonight. We are now moving into the public hearing portion. Oh, we have to,
The recess.
yeah, we have to recess the board meeting and move into the public hearing portion. So a motion to recess the board meeting.
Second, I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we will now move into the public hearing portion. Clerk Wilson, would you please read the first public hearing notice?
On the application of Amanda Elliott, 10 Cove Way, for permission to construct 4-foot by 3-foot platform leading to a 4-foot by 10-foot stairway down bluff leading to a 4-foot by 10-foot platform with a 4-foot by 20-foot fixed ramp leading to a 4-foot by 53-foot catwalk and a 4-foot by 30-foot L-figure. Construct 3-foot wide access stairs on east and west side of catwalk and install 3 ladders and install 1 bench.
Like to now open the hearing to any comments from the public?
We have to have the report from the water.
Wow, yeah, would you like to read it?
Elioff dock application reviewed by the Waterways Management Advisory Committee unanimously approved this application 6-0.
Now we'd like to open the hearing to comments from the public.
Jack Costello on behalf of the applicant. This is an application that we worked on with the WMAC, got everybody on board. There was some like limits of the length and stuff like that, but I think we came with a good, final product here. So I'm just here to answer any questions that you might have.
I have no questions. Any other questions?
I have no, I looked at it, I have no questions.
I sat through those meetings.
Yeah. No question.
All right, Jack, thank you very much. Anyone else have any comments on the Elioff application? All right. that I'd like to call for a motion to close or adjourn this hearing. But need a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to close this hearing on the Elioff dock application.
Would you like a second?
Second? Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3-0. Motion passes. Elioff application is closed and we'll be
On to the next.
on to the next one.
On the application of Ingrid and Robert Fagan, 1 Tar Kettle Road, for permission to construct a staircase leading up to a 4-foot by 30-foot fixed catwalk, leading to a 4-foot by 50-foot ramp, down to a 4-foot by 36 kayak launch, and install 2 ladders. Report.
You have the report, Albert, from the WMAC?
The applicant returned with the clarification of the permit inconsistencies. The DEC clarified that motorized vessels cannot be moored at this dock, though it could be used to launch small, non-motorized vessels such as kayaks. WMAC voted 2-2 with 2 abstain. Opponents argued that a dock at this location would not be in the best interest of the town. Proponents argued that the dock met the criteria in the code.
So with a vote like that is not approved recommendation to the town board.
Any comments?
Well,
Jack.
I'd love to hear from Jack.
Jack Costello on behalf of the applicant. This was a vote of 2-2-2, you know, the 2 people abstained, 2 yes, 2 no. So what I'm gonna request is an adjournment on this until we have a full board. So considering that it wasn't a clear cut thing by the WMAC, I'd like to wait for a full board, if that sounds appropriate.
Makes sense.
I do have a couple of questions that you may want to, during the adjournment period, if we so decide to do that. It's not clear to me where we ended up on whether or not a motorized vessel could tie up to this dock for a short period of time to go visit the landowner, the homeowner. I was under the impression that the DEC did not want to see any motorized vessels.
Well, this will be more of like an access, water access dock. You know, to access a mooring, you know, with a tent, like a tender or, you know, rowboat, sailboat. They don't want them staying there, you know, a motorized vessel being there for, you know, long periods of time.
Or, well, that's the question. Is it short period of time or no period of time?
Okay, if that's something we can establish, I mean,
It was indicated, Jack, that they wanted Friends to be able to tie up their boat at the dock, a motorized vessel.
okay, we'll seek clarity on that during the,
That would be helpful.
probably the June 30th, I guess.
That was my only point of clarification that I had. Did you have anything?
No, that was the question I had. Okay.
Okay. So, motion to adjourn?
Go on.
Nope.
No, keep it.
Oh,
30th.
no, keep it on. Okay, yeah.
If they're gonna adjourn, you can't take public comment.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, we're not adjourning. We'd like to hear more public comments. Oh,
You requested an
No,
adjournment.
I'm happy to adjourn.
okay.
No,
No, we're gonna keep it open though.
Okay.
We don't want to adjourn this because then we can't take further public comment.
You want an adjournment?
Well, can we table it on the 30th?
So you're asking for us to keep it open?
Keep it open.
Keep it open. That's what,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
But they want to come back on June 30th.
that's fine.
Okay.
So I guess the motion is to leave this application open for further review and discussion. And the applicant would like to come back on, what's the date, June 30?
June 30th.
June 30,
You'll
2025,
reconvene, yeah.
to reconvene. So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Um,
aye.
Aye.
This gets messy if you're going back and forth if we're gonna adjourn. We want to keep it all in one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the next item,
Okay. On application of Chad Pike, 6 Bluff Avenue, for permission to construct a 5-foot by 110-foot main pier leading to a 5-foot by 27-foot L section at Seaward End. Install a 70-foot splashboard system, install 1 2-pile dolphin, install 3 ladders and 1 bench.
I'm sure we have the report from the Waterways Committee.
Yeah,
None of
I
us.
got it here.
You got it?
Albert has, it, okay.
Members, the WMAC meeting on May 5th, members have previously cited this location as an exposed area that is not suitable for a dock or maintaining a boat. However, some felt the application meets the code and provided access. WMAC had a split vote, 2 in support with splash boards, 1 in support without splash boards, and 3 opposed. That was the report from the WMAC.
So the vote like that, it is not approved, recommended to the town board for approval.
Right.
Yeah. I guess you would like to say something, Jack.
This is another applicant, Jack Costello on behalf of the applicant. This is another one where it's not clear cut. We'd like a full board. So if we could leave this open, I'd be willing to, answer any questions that you might have to me right now. But I would like to move this on to the 30th also, just like the last application because of the split vote in the WMAC.
Okay.
All right.
Do you have any questions for Jack before we
I
open
think
this
we
up?
could wait till we have a full
Yeah.
board with
Yeah.
this, okay? This would be a June 30th,
June 30th as well.
so we reconvene it in June 30th.
It's not there.
Well, we're gonna hear
Yep.
from the rest of the public though,
Public, right.
before we do that.
Okay.
Because I know there are a number of people here who would like to speak on this issue, and it might be helpful if you might be able to answer some of their questions.
Okay, I'll make sure to just address the board.
Yes, thank you. Who signed up? We had the sheet. First person signed up was Judith Inglis.
Yes.
Would you like to make a public comment?
Should I get up?
Yeah, oh yes, please, go to the podium. It's the only way the microphones will pick you up.
Well, I'll speak a little louder than some of the rest of you.
Say
Speaking,
who you are and your
I'm
name.
Judith Inglis. I have been in this town as an owner since 1972. Been on Shelter Island since 1964. And I originally had a home in 1972 in the Heights and was very appreciative of the issues that were going on at that time. I am very pleased that the beach club has been as wonderful as it has been for the families in the Heights and their friends whom they invite to come. And I have been thrilled with the sailing program at the yacht club. I particularly now have 3 grandchildren in that sailing program. And my reason for being here is I feel that if docks are constructed near the beach club, under the bluff, they will greatly impair the ability of the children to be safe in the beach club, in the water, and they will impair the ability for the sailors, particularly the young sailors, but also the adult sailors sailing the H-12s around in the weekend and the Wednesday races. They will be impaired in their ability to tack and go back and forth if there are docks presented there. That is my argument.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ed Barr is next on the list. Would you like to speak?
Yes, please.
So I have lived on Shelter Island for 58 years, of which 46 has been at 3 Bayview, the top of the Heights. About 2.5 years after I bought, there was great problems with the combination of the Heights Association, the Beach Club, and the ferry. And there was a gentleman, Paul Kaiser, and a colleague of his had gradually, by buying up in the shares of longtime people who had no interest anymore in Shelter Island or anything else, to the point where they had a clear and substantial majority. And their idea was in a number of ways to change Shelter Island for bed purposes. So one of the things was that they was having problems with the ferry, and he decided that he wanted to tear down the beach club to expand the park. I lived across the street from Mr. Kaiser, who's not a bad person, just guy, I think. And so since he had retired from Mobil Chemical and I was an executive in a chemical company, I trotted down my driveway and across and introduced myself. And he was a good person, but very curmudgeonly. So the first thing he said, we're selling it. The damn ferry is causing all kinds of problems, but we have to have more parking area for it. So that started the conversation. And I talked to him about the impact on the young people that were coming into the Heights, that the old generations had started to sell or turn it over to their children. And this conversation went on a number of times, sitting on his porch, and gradually, I was not dealing with the ferry question that came subsequently a number of years later. And he said, I'll turn it over to you. You have to get a group that's going to take responsibility. But the first time you ask me for money, I'm tearing it down. So off we go. Now, I've had 4 children at that time. There were two actually young children, and then 2 more came, and others of my genre. And so we scurried around. And by the way, the beach club itself, the pavilion, was in terrible condition also. And so we decided that we'd have to raise money, but how? We were younger and we had some discretionary money, but not a lot. We decided we were going to introduce what became for a while a Shelter Island institution, in which we had the people of the Heights working in various ways have a dance. And we brought, because we couldn't afford a band, we brought Joe Cool, and Joe Cool became famous on Shelter Island subsequently. And so everyone worked. We paid a certain amount of money into it for a very nice evening. We danced to Joe Cool. And at the end of the season, I was responsible for having a conversation about the dock. And so I got Glenn Griffin, who was trying to compete with our friends from across the way, but not successfully. And I went down there and he looked at the showing me, and of course I'd seen it before. One of the piles was broken and floating in the water. Another one was so damaged that all you had to do was take your foot and hit it and it would fall off. And I knew we weren't going to pass inspection from the county for that, so we had to deal with it. So he said, well, I charge $800 for a new pot. I said, we only have a little over 1,000. He said, well, that's not going to get you 2. So it was a blustery November morning, I remember. And I said to him, look, I will give you my word, if you will put 2 piles in for our $1,000, that every year when it has to be done, you're going to get the work as we gradually fix everything up. He said, okay. So we were in business. And it was a great experience for the children growing up, for the parents. We carried that on for some time. And it was a part of the old Heights, of the old Shelter Island, really. It was open to people that were not residents of the Heights, which there were a number. So what is being proposed now is for someone who already has 2 moorings in front of a piece of property that are set up for mooring for boats. However, they're proposing to put a dock in that is L-shaped, and you'll see it in the drawings. And at best, with an amateur driving a powerboat, that's going to be an iffy kind of thing. We're advised that churning of the water and the usual things that go on when you're backing out and you have someone that's not really, whatever, that you'll make waves. Now, we have children in that enclosed area that are protected, and they're there, and they're only 7, 8 years old, occasionally a little younger. They're wearing protection, but they can't navigate or anything. We have a lifeguard. But that happening, plus larger boats from the main run as they go up toward the cut to the backside of Shelter Island, are going to make it very difficult. and very dangerous, I might add, and likely possibility. So, for a number of reasons, first of all, safety, and second of all, maintenance of a very important institution that safely brought our children up and happily in the summer. And thirdly, we've had a lot of changes on Shelter Island in general, and I don't want to romance too much about that. A lot of it's been good, some of it not so good. This will be a big chip out of has been good, is good, and will be good on Shelter Island. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next on the list is Ingrid, but I assume you're yielding your time. Did she leave? Oh, she left, okay. Next on the list is Lorraine Walker.
Hello, gentlemen.
Your name?
My name is Lorraine Walker. I live at 3 Bluff Avenue, adjacent to the property that's in discussion. After the split decision by the Waterway Advisory Council on May 5th, a great number of us felt like we needed to have our voices heard on this very important issue. So a community petition using any further development of White Hill Bathing Beach was circulated over the last 3 weeks. I know some of you have seen it, but this is it. Some of you have signed it. And it will save White Hill Bathing Beach before it's too late. It has garnered, to date, 138 signatures from people all over the island. It's not just Heights people. There are people on other neighborhoods of the island. And these are people who appreciate this beautiful part of our island. It's a shared asset to the community and to Shelter Island as a whole. They don't want to see further development of such an iconic, pristine natural environment. Those that have signed are swimmers, shoreline walkers, sailors that have talked about this, and island lovers, whose families have been on this island since World War II. People who played on White Hill Beach as children 60 years ago, and people who have children who play there now and swim there now. These are the people, just so you know, again, this is a work in progress. These are the people that have signed to say, we really ask the board not to develop our beach, if you want here, because there are quite a few of us on the road collecting them. And I lost that, sorry. The overarching desire is to see that beach remain a bathing beach, a swimming beach, a kayak beach, any of those things. People don't want to see it destroyed and ruined. They don't want to see power boats or jet skiers coming into the swimming area or near the swimming area. We don't want to see a marina for property owners who stand to profit at the community's expense, because that's what we're setting up here. We already have one dock at the far end of the beach. This is a dock on the other side, closer to the swimming area. There's a couple more pieces of property that are up for sale or just purchased in that neighborhood. And all of those are potential docks. So we're asking the board to please help us and save this bathing beach before it's too late. Stop the docks. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the sign-in sheet is Kathy Zarchett.
Hi, I'm Kathy Zarchett. Honestly, I didn't sign in. I was on Zoom and couldn't get through. However, my family, my late husband's family, has been in the Heights since 1960. It's a community of homes that are passed down through generations. And we're neighbors. Everyone takes care of each other. We respect everything around us. There's been a recent clearing of land on Bluff by the same person who is proposing this dock. It shows an honest disrespect of environmental area that is all washed down now. It's gutted. Give us a good rainstorm and it's all gonna end up on the beach. I beg the board to sincerely consider, I'm sorry, I'm shaking, sincerely consider stopping this before it ruins our home. It's not just where we go in the summer, it's our home. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Next on the list is Stephen Walker.
Good evening. My name's Stephen Walker. I live at Three Bluff as well. Lorraine Riley is my wife. I will not repeat a lot of other things that I know other people are going to say. I think there are a couple of very important points here that I would stress. The first is that I don't think that the board should allow bad precedent at the Sapin property to overcome good common sense moving forward. The Sapin dock has inevitably started a sort of docks arms race. So every single property now along this stretch of pristine coastline is now vulnerable to the building of one dock after another, which will eventually destroy that beachfront and will start to look increasingly like a private corporate marina, not a public shared beach. That's the domino that you potentially are going to topple here if you make the wrong decision at this point. The other thing I would say is that building in private property docks along that stretch will certainly increase the value of the one or two houses that get to build the dock, but those docks will simultaneously destroy the value of all of the neighbouring properties. So there will be a net destruction in property value as a result of these decisions. And I would just ask you to think about, where does one person's individual right end and when do everybody else's start? Property rights, I think, should be mutually shared. They shouldn't be monopolised, which is the danger. Other people are going to have lots more to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the sign-in sheet is Mary Maroon. But you can yield your time if you like.
I yield my time.
Next on our sign-in sheet is Stella Lagutis.
Good evening. I'm Stella Luis, and I'm representing the Shelter Island Heights Property Owners Corporation, which is a nearby property owner to the proposed applicant or the application from the proposal. I first want to apologize because I got a letter from the Heights in just this morning. So I'm usually a little bit quicker than that, but as I'm here, I figured I would just give you some of the highlights. Punchline is that the Shelter Island Heights Property Owners Corporation does not support the Six Bluff dock. 2 years ago, we believe that the town opened Pandora's box by approving the Sapin dock. And that was at a time when the then WMAC members said that this is not a good idea, but the town went forward anyway. In fact, until somewhat recently, at least according to John Needham, who has been on the WMAC for a very, very long time, the DEC didn't want docks in that location. So we're objecting to this very bad precedent, but in a way it's not even a precedent because this dock is even worse than the Sapin dock because it's L-shaped as opposed to it being in a straight line. Fast forward, here we are 2 years later, and we have at least two new applications in front of you. Went through the WMAC and now they're in front of you. And what we're going to do is the Heights is going to ask you to close Pandora's box and say no, just say no. And the reason for this, and the reason we're asking you to deny this application is based on a couple of things. First of all, navigation and safety. As you already heard, this beach club that we have is very close to the property where the proposal is to install the dock. We have a morning program. This year, we're having 3-year-olds in that program, going up to 7. Those kids are in the water. And if you look at the western end of the beach club property, it is only 136 feet to the tip where that L starts. That is not very far. We think it's a little too close. And having said that, if you look in the packet, the letter that we sent this morning, we provided some photos which show you how close the mooring is right now. There is a mooring with a boat on it with a very long lead. So when the wind comes and the tide comes, that thing flips around like a dial. And this dock is just going to exacerbate it. The site plan for this proposed dock shows that there's the ramp up that is above the mean high water mark, and it abuts the beach grass. So the design, in our opinion, is inconsistent with section 5311A of the town code, which says that the public must be able to have unobstructed passage to go by. So in this case, the public's either going to have to climb over the dock, or it's going to have to go in the grass. It's going to have to go on private property that is, above the high water mark is Pike property. Or they're going to have to like shimmy through between the dock and the grass. And, that might be fine for the current owner, but if that property ever passes hands, who knows? There's going to be an obstruction there. So that's not a good idea. This is it's an unsheltered stretch of shoreline, very heavy boat traffic. It's completely exposed. And as you've already heard, there are strong winds and tides. 2 moorings, you've heard about that. There's another mooring further east to that. So there's a lot going on next to the beach club. The next set of comments I have are basically related to the environment. So I am not an expert on splashboards, but I'd like to think that those who are sitting on the WMAC are far more expert than I am. And you already heard that there were 3 opposed and 1 was yes, provided there was no splashboard. And as I've been educated recently, the splashboards will promote coastal erosion and have the same type of negative impact that a jetty does, which is kind of making nature take a different course for how the sand goes back and forth and for the base or the floor of the water. So I understand why one would want it to protect you with all this like wind and currents to try to get into your L, but at the end of the day, I mean, why should we have the environment suffer? Also, if you think about it, if you read back to our current comprehensive plan and you look at what's currently on the docket as a draft, the comprehensive plan keeps harboring on, and in a good way, the fact that we should be preserving our scenic vistas. So here we have this beautiful shoreline that has this 1 dock already, perhaps another, and maybe another. And our calling card for those coming over by boat or by ferry is not going to be this beautiful, pristine shoreline. It's going to be, as someone said earlier, potentially looking like a commercial a marina. The other thing is, this is a beach club that was saved. You heard Ed Barr say that. It was saved by the people in the Heights, and it was saved in part because it is an historic bathing beach. I have postcards that go back to when it was a 2-level, beautiful structure, and it had a huge deck that was out, or some kind of a raft that was out with a slide. This is part of history. So once you start messing with it, you want to preserve this historic beach club. I think property rights are something that come up quite often with something like this. Stephen Walker said that everyone should have property rights. Those who don't want a dock should be able to have quiet enjoyment of their own property and be able to go swimming and not worry about, what additional wave action is going to come or potentially getting hit. And the other thing that I think we should have you contemplate is that, this isn't only private property. This is property that belongs to New York State, that this town has jurisdiction on and over. And at the end of the day, the town should not be thinking about just a few. I believe, the Heights Board believes that the town board should really be thinking about the general good of the entirety of the island and the residents of the island. So for these reasons and others that are in the letter that I've submitted on behalf of the board, we request that you decline and deny this application. Thank you.
So
Thank you.
I have a question. I'm just granted that it may not directly relate to the application at hand, but I went up to look and I see lots of construction. There's a road that appears to have been built, and then there's some sort of drainage going in. Could you describe that to me and the public in general?
Sure. So we'll start with 3 Bevan. There was some extensive clearing at the base of 3 Bevan. And that was in order to put another driveway down in order to get to the beach. Number 2, there was, and I would also recommend, I don't want to put you on the hook, Brian, but Brian Moorhead, who works for the applicant, can probably give you a better idea of what the intentions are for that other property with what you call to look like a road. But what happened was when that was cleared, there was always drainage coming down from the road, coming from adjacent properties in that area. But once it was cleared, it became even more, I mean, there's nothing stopping the velocity of the water. So because of that, we worked pretty quickly, quickly with the Pikes, and the Heights put in additional stormwater drains and collection rings in order to catch as much of that as possible. And then hopefully whatever the Pikes end up doing with that property, it will be improved rather than having it be completely spared of all its foliage.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, there's one more name on the sign-in sheet, and then we can go to the Zoom audience for any input.
Excuse
But-
me, can I add, is it appropriate for me to just ask one question about?
Sure.
So we went.
Say your name, yeah, do the whole thing again.
My name is Lorraine Walker, I'm at 3 Bluff Avenue. And I went down to the beach with Stephen today to look at that road that is down approaching the beach area that is part of what's happening on that. And we can't understand what the intention is, maybe this is a question for Brian, when that truck goes down to the beach area, it would, in order to get down to the actual beach, it would require a significant amount of that bluff, we think, to be further removed. What is the procedure of that? How does that get looked at? Is that another another board that looks at what that is? Because we don't understand if the further trees are gonna get cut down, do they have to dig in to the bluff in order to continue that trek down? That's just a question that we have. I'll leave that.
And I forgot to sign in, but I'd like to.
Oh, please, Mr. Patel, please
We
come.
have a public comment, I just have to state what correspondence we received for this application.
Okay, thank you, Amber. Sure, Tim, please approach the podium, and then Lori, we'll go to you.
I'm Tim Pertel, and I live at 5 Bluff Avenue. Speaking on behalf of myself and my niece Sharon Edwards as co-owners of 8 Bluff Avenue in the Heights. Our property consists of a wooden bluff and a beach that faces Shelter Island Sound. This property has been in our family since 1950. We do not support the application for a proposed dock to be located at the 6 Bluff Avenue property owned by Chad Pike for the following reasons. And some of this will be repetitive of some of the points that people have made, but bear with me. Too many docks. The proposed dock will be in addition to a dock that was constructed several years ago by the owner of 22 Prospect Avenue. Aside from the proposed Pike dock, the owner of the property located at 10 Bluff Avenue has also applied for a dock. Should these 2 docks be approved, we will have docks on each side of our beach property. While there is much discussion about riparian rights and the rights of homeowners to have docks, there's much less discussion about the rights of others who, in our case, wish to enjoy the natural shoreline, which will be somewhat very much disrupted by these 2 docks. In addition to these 2 proposed docks, the property located at 20 Prospect Avenue, which is currently for sale, could conceivably also have a dock. As one member of the WMAC commented at their May 5th meeting, this whole shoreline is about to be developed. Aside from the loss of a beautiful natural stretch of beach, a cluster of docks could create potential safety issues. Currently, our family members use our beach for swimming, sailing, kayaking, and paddleboarding. We are concerned about safety in a limited area with the potential for increased boat traffic. And with the change of ownership, there could be a change in the type and size of motorized vessels. My second point, it's a bad location for docks, redux. When the WMAC approved the 22 Prospect dock, the unsuitability of the location was stressed not only by the two members who voted against the application, but also by the 4 members who voted in favor. I might add that the Costello Marine application for that dock also noted, quote, "The project site is in an unprotected location that endures considerable wave energy during the summer months from the prevailing southwest winds and considerable boat traffic." The Pike application was approved by 3 members of the WMAC and opposed by 3 others at the May 5th meeting. Of the 3 members who opposed, 1 commented, "It's a bad location for a dock." Another commented, "I think it's a bad location." And a third commented, "It's a bad location and I don't think it's in the interest of the town to continue to build docks along an inappropriate coast." One of the supporters of the application said twice, "It's a bad place to have a dock." Another supporter said, "I don't think it's a good spot for a boat." We're aware, these are all quotes, actual direct quotes from the video. We're aware that the WMAC unsuccessfully attempted to put some island locations off limit for docks in the updated code. However, though this location was not considered in the draft update, is continually and unanimously deemed unsuitable for docks by the WMAC committee. Indeed, this is an area with strong winds from the northwest and northeast, as well as the southwest, that can create considerable wave energy. These conditions can arise suddenly. In addition, depending on the tide, there's a strong current that runs close to the shore. Separately or combined, these conditions can make navigation difficult. I'm personally keenly aware of these conditions as a long-time and frequent swimmer and sailor in these areas. Hurricanes and northeasters can create even more turbulent conditions. My third point is about splashboards. At the May 5th WMAC meeting, 2 members who voted in favor also supported the installation of splashboards. 1 member who voted against the application commented on the destructive nature of splashboards, mentioning scouring and the pushing of sand in a direction away from the dock. We would like the board, my niece and I would like the board, we would like a more thorough assessment of splashboards as the town board considers this application. My fourth point, a treasured shoreline will be greatly impacted. A potential row of docks will have a negative visual impact on a natural stretch of beach that has existed in a wild state for decades, if not for centuries. A row of docks would also have an impact on the native vegetation and wildlife and potentially the delicate sand bluffs. This shoreline has long been enjoyed and appreciated by island families and their children, by boaters, and by ferry passengers as they approach the island. The addition of multiple docks would be detrimental to a treasured area. And finally, there are alternatives to a dock, and they already exist. The Pikes have had 2 moorings for many years at their beach property. Moorings are considerably less disruptive than docks, and we have no objection to others elsewhere in the waters along the beach. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Last but not least on the written list here is Lori Baird Raymond. And then if there's anyone on Zoom that would like to speak, we will call on you after Lori is done.
Hi, Lori Beard Raymond, also here with the Shelter Island Heights Property Owners Corporation. And my comment is more of an observation. And the observation is over the last few WMAC meetings. The one thing that I was surprised at when reviewing or looking at these applications is that they were looking at this proposal for this dock at this location. But what didn't appear to be happening is looking at the entire stretch of beach and looking at the proximity from one dock to another, or proximity of the moorings to docks. It was almost like it was like a blinders, don't look to the left and don't look to the right, or we're only gonna look at our dock and we're not gonna talk about the moorings. And you know, even last summer, I actually looked out the window and saw the pike boat, and the way the current was running and the lead on the boat looked like it was like, oh, did somebody dock at the beach club dock in our swim area? And it wasn't, of course, it was just an illusion from the direction of the tide and the winds. But now we have another boat with a new mooring, even closer to the beach club and even closer to the swim area. And that is even on a longer lead, and it really swings around and comes very close to our swim area. So I'm just asking that what was odd to me in these meetings is that they're not looking at, or didn't appear to be looking at, they certainly didn't discuss it, the mooring locations, the proximity of the moorings to the docks and the docks to each other. And, you know, looking at that beach and the whole bigger picture. So that was just an observation I made in going to these meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
Thanks, Lori.
Anyone else in the room? Jack, would you like to make your
Jack
final comment?
Russell, on behalf of the applicant, I just have a quick comment here. Just in regards to the Sapan dock that keeps getting referred to, that dock does have an L and a very similar splashboard system that's working out well. This proposed dock is 15 feet shorter than the Sapan dock, and it will interfere with the grass on the beach. So there were some statements there as far as the site plans go. So this dock is very similar to the Sapan dock, 15 feet shorter, and it has an L like the Sapan dock does.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room? Oh, yes.
Deborah Edmond at 3 Spring Garden in the Heights. And I would just like to add that Mr. Pike, I believe, is a member of a yacht club on the island and would have access to its boats.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room? Another hand has shot up. Is that Kirsten? Yes.
Yes, there is 32 Wesley Avenue. We've had a house on the island since 1977. And one of the biggest pleasures is walking up and down the beach. And I don't quite see how that's going to be possible with lots of docks there, because the beach is not that wide and docks start quite far up so that people can walk with dry feet, right, from high tide line. It's going to be impossible to walk down the beach for anybody. So I vote for saying no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in the room? Okay, anyone on Zoom that would like to make a comment? I'm not seeing anyone who's raising a hand or turning on their cameras. Okay. So I think that's it for comment tonight on this particular application.
I have to state the correspondence for you.
Yes, we have to go to the correspondence next.
All right, we received a petition against this dock application, a letter from the Shelter Island Heights Property Center Corporation and from Tim Patel in opposition to. That's it.
Which were the two, what were the two?
We have a letter from Tim Patel in opposition, from the Shelter Island Heights Corporation from Estella against, and then the petition against the Pike application.
With 100+ signatures.
I counted 116.
16.
Oh, 60.
Was there one other letter from Stephen Walker?
I didn't receive a letter.
Okay.
If you resend it, I can read it on June 30th.
Yeah, I'll take a wide 12 guess here and say that you have time to send it in. Otherwise, the spectrum will be left open.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
If there are many of us, since this came to our attention so late, that want, there are many in my family who are homeowners here who want to sign this petition. Can we keep this petition going, is my question.
I mean, I think we're gonna keep the hearing open, so yeah, definitely.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Leventhal?
Well, I just want to say, while I appreciate the willingness and eagerness of residents to participate and express themselves by signing a petition, what the board needs to consider is reasoned statements about why someone is in favor or opposed to the application. Signatures on a petition are, when a municipal board makes a decision based upon signatures on a petition, the courts often invalidate those decisions because the board's charge is not to decide based upon the popularity of a proposal, but rather the merits of the proposal. And I've heard some very concerned and very conscientious and very thoughtful comments tonight. And I do not mean in any respect to denigrate the people who signed the petition, the people who carried it, and the opinions expressed. But I just want to focus the board on the arguments that were made rather than the number of signatures on a petition.
Thank you.
I respect you and your position, but the petitions outline the reasons for which you're signing. So it has to be incorporated. It's not just someone, putting their name down and going. These are real Shelter Island people who have lived here for a long time, who love the island and see lots of issues that need to be addressed, and this is front and center. And I think it's not wise to say simply because someone signed a petition that their thoughts and their views do not matter in the adjudication process.
I could not agree with the gentleman more. And that's why I said I do not mean in any respect to minimize the value of the opinions of the people who signed the petition. It's just that numbers of signatures are not an appropriate basis for a board to make a decision of this type.
And just for the record, that was Ed Barr speaking, who was seated.
This is Judy English speaking. It also shows the petitions, whoops.
Yes, if you don't mind, Judy.
Hold on. The petitions show the volume of people who you don't want all of these hundreds of people coming to your board meeting to physically be there and speak. It shows the volume of concern, and I think from that point of view, the petitions are important. Question.
Hey, can I speak?
Come up to the podium, Lily, and say your name.
I don't know this.
Quick question to our lawyer. If each person in the petition wrote a little letter and signed their name to their letter, could the numbers of the letters then be counted, since each would be individual and stating a cause or two?
The point that I'm trying to make is it's not the numbers on one side or the other. It's not a popularity contest. It's not a vote by the residents. The board needs to make the decision. The board members have been elected to make the decision, and they make that decision based on reasoned arguments that you have all been making tonight. And so if the signatories on the petition were to write a letter, as you suggest, and set forth their reasons for opposing the application, I would say that's an appropriate consideration by the board. All I'm saying is not that people's opinions shouldn't be considered, but that the number of opinions on one side or the other is not, in my opinion, a legitimate criteria. In the way the courts have ruled, it's not a legitimate criteria for deciding a matter where the board is required to exercise judgment and discretion.
Stephen, would I be wrong, Stephen? I think it's hard to misinterpret numbers, okay? I think what you're really implying that in a gentle way, you're telling the board to do its job and have the reasons for why, to really take in consideration the reasoning, not the numbers. And I think that's what he's referring to, okay? And I think that's what I'm hearing, and I think that's our job, okay?
Right. Oh,
Is there any way the Zoom audience can get in here or not?
yes, no, yeah, we're working the room right now, John, but we're happy to go to you now. And what's your name again?
John Evans, and I used to call this the poor man's Hamptons, but Albert and I probably can remember walking from the beach club down to Louis Strobel's along the beach uninterrupted to get a hot dog or an ice cream cone, from the beach club. But the point is, I don't want to keep, because I know these meetings get tedious and long. I think Stella nailed it. I mean, she really did. There are safety concerns here that are very legitimate with the winds and the tides that come in. Docking a boat it can be very hazardous when you have kids swimming there. In addition, you've got other people are going to want. I don't know why you approved Sapin's dock, but you did. Okay, so that's that. But don't compound the error. And this WMAC. I mean, these guys need. I don't know. Maybe need some new board members there. But in any event, I mean, you're going to have. There's already another application. You have the two guys that bought Ben Jones's house at 3 Bevan Avenue. That have cleared some property down to the beach. I'm sure they're going to want a dock. So you're going to have a series of dock after dock after dock. And that really does shift, as Stella said, they act like jetties, and it does shift the sand and will transform the beach. So, I just want to, say that I oppose it. And I think that all the people here have really spoken very eloquently, and I don't want to take any more time, but you're setting a bad precedent if you really, you set one with Sapin, but you stop it now, please. Thank you.
Anyone else on Zoom or even in the room if anyone wants to come back in? Okay, I'd like to thank everyone for participating. We need a motion to act on this.
I think we'll keep it open.
Open.
Okay.
I move to keep the hearing open, keep the doc application open.
I second it, okay?
All in favor of keeping this open for more comment and study?
Adjourn it until June 3rd.
And we're adjourning it till June 30th, 2025.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Passed. June 30.
Still more. Still more.
Oh, we still got more if you want to stay just for the show.
I'm gonna let everyone exit first. Let everyone exit first.
Yeah.
Pressing on us.
You gotta kind of.
So we still have some business to conduct, so if you want to stay for that, you're welcome. If you'd like to have a conversation, I would suggest it happens out in the hall. Not a problem.
One more. Right?
Thank you so much.
Well, it's just the approach. I didn't want to say it, but when you come home on the ferry and you look up there, oh my God, You know, it's just a whole perspective that was there. Now, and I'm not on that perspective, don't get me wrong. I look another way. But we used to, when our children were smaller, we loved to, what John was talking about, to go up to Louis and get something and then walk down the beach all the way, skipping over an occasional higher tide someplace, and it was just enjoyable. It was part of their growing up there.
Thank you for participating. Thank you for your help. Okay.
Okay. There we go.
Jeff, it's been here.
We have a couple more pieces of business to conduct here tonight. Clerk Wilson, will you read the next public hearing notice?
So on the application of Landfall Properties LLC, care of Joe Quinn, 47L South Ferry Road, for permission to construct a 4-foot by 30-foot ramp leading to a 4-foot by 80-foot fixed catwalk, install 2 ladders and 4 tie-off pilings.
WMAC report, Albert?
Landfall, WMAC approved this application 5-1. One member opposed the application since the dock reaches less than 2.5 feet of water depth.
Okay. Now we will open the hearing to public comment. I guess that's you, Jack.
Sensing a little bit of a pattern.
We don't leave the door open.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna leave it open, yeah.
Good. So the stock is pretty minimalistic. It's not in your code that it's against being in 2.5 feet of water. We've done plenty of them. The stock is very similar to the neighboring property right next door that's been approved by the board. So it's a pretty simple application as far as, I'm concerned, as far as it's a minimalistic straight dock. And like I said, it's right next door to a very, very similar dock. And I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Jack, this was presented as a kayak dock?
Yeah, like it's a water access dock, like for a tender where they'd be able to get out to a larger boat. You can't really get a large boat into the dock.
Am I confusing this with something else, or did the DEC specifically say that it's non-motorized vessels?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And we have all the other permits in here, of course.
Waterways Committee, what was the
5-1.
5-1?
One person was objecting because it could be in water depth less than 2.5 feet. But the DEC has specified that the dock cannot be used for any motorized vessels at all, correct? Not even a quick tie-up.
It's not very clear in their thing, but yes, that's what I would say. It says that it's not for mooring of motorized vessels. So, I would say yes to that.
You know what, I'd like to look into this further.
Yeah, I hate to do this, but once again, I'd like for you possibly to talk to the applicant, and we'll have to look into the DEC restriction. But would they accept an absolute ban on motorized vessels at this dock?
I can pull it up right now. You see right here.
Oh,
That's the applicant right there. So is it fair to say that there won't be any motorized vessels at the dock? The statement.
Ideally, Joe Quinn, the owner of the property, ideally, we would like the ability to tie up a boat in the future, but if the board decides it's not deep enough, go with that.
It says here, use of structure. The authorized structure is provided for access of the waterway, is not intended for the mooring or launching of vessels. Prop dredging resulted from motorized vessels intentionally powering in shallow waters. is not a regulated activity. So it doesn't. So it's basically prohibiting prop dredging is what they're really worried about. Article 15 and that's where it mentions the usage. So that kind of clears it for you. They just fear prop dredging.
Yeah, of course, nothing hits it right on the head, right? But they're basically saying.
Right. See, it's not, they're just saying there's no prop dredging. So they're not really saying a motorized boat can't be there.
Right.
So do you see that out? So it's highlighted, yeah, okay. So, I mean, it doesn't really state that in the DEC permit that a motorized boat can't be there. They just can't prop dredge to make it water depth deeper. So
I would recommend we leave this open until June 30th, so we can look further into this aspect of it.
okay, it'd be good to have the full board here for this to you guys. But yes, that sounds good, guys.
All right, thank you. So let's have a motion and a second. I move that we leave it open till June 30th. We have a second, all in favor? Aye. Okay. So moved.
Guys, have a good evening.
All right, we'll see you June 30th.
Thank you.
And our last piece. Oh, almost.
Almost. On the proposed local law entitled, "A Local Law Amending Chapter 53 Docks, Article 3, Section 53-6 of the Code of Town of Shelter Island, to require the applicants for permits to construct, alter, modify, or repair a dock pay the town fees and deposits that are reasonable and necessary for the town to conduct its work in connection with the respective applications."
Thank you. Since there's no one in the audience, physical audience, to offer comment, do we have anyone on Zoom that would like to have, say something about this matter? I see no comments from the Zoom audience. So I will entertain a motion to leave it open, close, or adjourn.
Make a motion
Close.
to, what's that?
Want to make a motion to close?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll make the motion. I make a motion to close this public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Close. The other item on this has been put off till June 30. So all we have is one more matter, I believe.
We have to open that and close it, Amber?
Yes, you have to
to
open.
open
And
Yeah, open,
adjourn.
reconvene,
It's a reconvene for
and then adjourn.
the town board meeting. So we're gonna, I make a motion to reconvene the town board meeting. Second?
Second?
Okay, all in favor? Yeah.
Aye.
And then we have to do the resolution. Who gets to read? Go for it.
Well, we don't have to read all of this. I'm gonna take excerpts out of this, okay?
Yeah.
I agree, but I do suggest that you state that it's posted on the town's website and has been posted on the town's website for anyone who wishes to read it in the full document to do so.
Yeah, okay. This resolution has been posted on the town website, and the full resolution is available for anyone's review. Basically, whereas, I'm just going to read excerpts, okay, whereas the wetlands application was submitted on behalf of Scott Gordon, dated on February 20th, 2025. He was seeking a permit, okay, to legalize construction of 24 square feet gazebo. There are
64.
many items here. Legalize 225 square foot patio addition with an outdoor fireplace, barbecue pit located And the closest point it was, okay, legalized construction of 138 square feet of wood decking with a hot tub, locate 85.5 feet from the wetlands, abandon existing sanitary system by pumping the system clean, followed by removal, backfilling the remaining excavation in accordance with the Suffolk County Health Services located at their closest point. Okay, to install a new innovative IA system. The permit was denied. It has changed somewhat, but let me go
Give it the result.
be it resolved, okay? The town board finds that the project meets certain standards and the proposed project will not create risk to the impairing the function and the value of the wetland buffer, diminish the wetland size. Be it resolved, the town board hereby approves the issuance of a wetland permit for the previous constructed improvements, abandonment of the existing sanitary systems, and the installation of a new IA system on 4 Margaret's Drive, prepared by Matthew Sherman, dated April 30th, has last revisited on February 20th. The following conditions. These are the following conditions. Prior to the commencement of the demolition, a continuous wire line back silted screening shall be installed in a trench at a depth of 6 inches between the water and the fireplace prior to the demolition commencing. The screen shall be maintained and required and replaced as necessary as often to ensure that it functions properly until all disturbed areas are permanently vegetated. The gazebo will be reduced by removing the roof, the post, the seats, leaving only the platform. The hot tub and the deck may remain where they currently are located on the condition that the building permit is obtained, a drywall is added, and the result of all the regulated inspections are satisfactory. The fireplace and the adjacent patio will be removed. Storage of the demolition material shall be confined into an area outside the 100-foot setback. The vegetated buffer on the creek side shall be increased to 49 feet from the flagged wetland line shown on the site drawing C11 and otherwise restored with the native vegetative characteristics of the area and graduations found naturally occurring coastal ecological communities. The vegetative plan will be submitted to the town clerk prior to the issuance of a permit. All areas of soil disturbances shall, from this project, be revegetated immediately upon completion of the project within 2 days. If the vegetation is impractical due to the time of year, then the final vegetation performed as soon as the weather prevails, okay? I'm just going to go over the key components here. Any portion of the buffer shall be restored to if any portion of the required buffer is to be restored to natural vegetation by allowance for nature, recovery, and vegetative succession, all mowing shall be discontinued upon the issuance of the permit. No tree, shrub, or ground covering vegetation, living and dead, may be cut and removed, limb pruned, or otherwise altered within the required vegetated wetlands. Prior to the issuance of a C of O, the applicant shall file an application for the final wetlands inspection and review of lighting for dark sky compliance. Such additional vegetation shall be planted and such other restoration measures shall be implemented as may be required by the town board or its designee in the event upon final inspection. It is deemed necessary to achieve the goal of establishing a continuous, healthy cover of native vegetation within the designated area. The applicant is encouraged to install an IAO system, but is not required to do so as a condition of this permit. The only thing that I did not see, and I don't know whether we left, it was an exception or what, but we don't have a dry well for the pool area.
No, for the hot tub. It's in here.
No, the hot tub, but we have nothing for the pool. I thought we had discussed that, or did I miss that?
It was just for the hot tub.
That was just for the hot tub.
Yes, okay. So,
Not for the pool.
so as far as the pool and the emptying of the pool, what happens with that?
I think it gets empty.
Did I oversee that, or did we just agree that it wasn't going to be a necessary thing?
I think, well, the dry well that is going for the hot tub is going right between the pool and the hot tub.
Yep.
So I think it can be used for
Do
both.
Okay.
So moved.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Resolution is adopted. We have one more. What's the last one, Amber?
This last one.
Want to take it over?
Yeah,
You can also
just-
say that it's posted. Anybody?
Yeah. Just need to read the, consent.
Yeah, this resolution is posted with the clerk's office or on the website. Whereas the public hearing was held on Monday, June 9th, 2025, for any and all persons either for or against a local law entitled a local law amending Chapter 53 Docks, Article 3, Commercial and Private Docks, Section 53-6, permit application of the Code of the Dock of the Town of Shelter Island to require that applicants for permits to construct, alter, modify, or repair a dock be pay the town fees and deposits that are reasonable and necessary for the town to conduct its work in connections with the respective applications. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board does hereby adopt local law number 9-2025 entitled a local law amending Chapter 53 Docks, Article 3, Commercial and Private Docks, Section 53-6, permit application of the Code of the Town of Shelter Island to require that applicants for permits to construct, alter, modify, or repair a dock to pay to the town fees and deposits that are reasonable, necessary for the town to conduct its work in connection with the respective application. Be it enacted by the town board of the Town of Shelter Island as follows. And there's a number of things, but I'm gonna go to cut to the chase, the end that are added, fees, expenses, and deposits. Number one, permit fee for the construction, alteration, modification, or repair of a dock shall be established by resolution of the town board. Expenses, in addition, applicant shall be liable for and shall pay to the town all of its expenses reasonably and necessarily incurred in connection with the application, including, without limitations, all fees, costs, and expenses for engineering, legal, and stenographic services, environmental and other consultant services, and all recording fees that are reasonably and necessarily incurred in connection with the application. Initial deposit, other than one-family and two-family residential premises, the town board may time to time by resolution establish and require deposits to be paid by applicants in connection with the applicants related to properties that are other than one-family or two-family residential premises to secure the payment of the expenses required to be paid pursuant to this section. The expenses for which the applicant is responsible shall be deducted from the deposit as incurred by the town. Additional deposit in the event from time to time the amount on deposit with the town is reduced to 75%. 25% of its original amount prior to final determination of the application and receipt of the town of all invoices for the expenses required to be paid pursuant to this section, the applicant shall deposit such additional funds as may be required to restore the amount on deposit to 50% of its original amount. Refund of unused deposit in the event that the amount of the deposit shall exceed the expenses required to be paid pursuant to this section upon final determination of the application and receipt by the town of all invoices for such expenses. The unused portion of the deposit shall be returned to the applicant. So moved.
Second. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Resolution passes. That concludes the business of the town board for tonight, and I would entertain.
I'm sorry, are you not going to do the appointments, the outdoor assembly? There are some items on page 1 of the agenda that I think did.
We
you want
did
to do
that
those
already.
tonight?
no,
Did you?
Yeah, we did those
We did.
earlier.
Okay, I apologize.
No, no worries.
It's the Historical Museum and the Recreation Department we did.
Okay.
That concludes the business of the town board for Monday, June 9th. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Do you have a second, Albert?
Second.
All in favor?
I
Aye.
Close.
Thanks, everyone. Thank everyone for coming, and this meeting is closed.